ଏଠି ସ୍ପିକର ଅଛି ନା ଇୟରଫୋନ ମୋବାଇଲ ଅଛି ହଁ ଆଇଟା ଓ ୟାର କିଛି ନାହିଁ
ନାନି म्यूट अच्छा
ତାର ଖାଲି ସ୍ପିକର ଅଛି ଦେଖୁନ ଶୁଣା ହଉଛି ଇୟରଫୋନ ଦେଲେ ଶୁଣିବ ହଁ ହେଲେ ମୋ କଥାଟା ଏବେ ଶୁଭୁନି ତ ନାଇଁ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଶୁଣା କୁଆ ହଁ ପ୍ରାୟ ଏଇଟା କହିବା
म्यूट कर दी ओह
ଆପଣ କଥା ସବୁ ଶୁଣା ହେଲା କାହିଁକି କହିଲେ ଭିଡିଓ ସ୍ପିକର ଲାଗିଥିଲା ତାକୁ କହିନି
क्यों कहीं कर दिया क्यों कहीं कर दिया नहीं करो
नमस्कार ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ
सुषमा नानी नमस्कार. 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 जापानी बोधे ना नहीं पूर्णिमा पदमपुर रो ओ पूर्णिमा ओ पदमपुर रो बढ़िया केते जन को देखाइला जापानी भी अच्छा ना बहुत दिन परे हां जापानी मैडम अच्छा हां केते दिन परे रे
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, Lakshminarayan College, Jharsuguda, in collaboration with Samvad Sahityagara, Jharsuguda, is going to organize International Women's Day 2022. On this occasion, we are going to have the theme Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. This is the theme of 2022 International Women's Day. And with this theme, we people are going to have a great day today. I, on behalf of Lakshminarayan College and Samvad Sahityagara, welcome you all to this virtual celebration of such a great day. Before we move on to today's intellectual forum, I must take this privilege to introduce the topic, and I must welcome our principal, Professor Narendra Kumar Panda, to give the inaugural speech. But before that, let me just put a few lines about International Women's Day. This day is celebrated globally every year on March 8th to recognize the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. This event not only celebrates the achievements but also creates awareness about women's status, basically gender equality, gender disparity, and asks for the establishment of dignity for women. Though International Women's Day was started being celebrated unofficially from 1911, the United Nations Organization began the celebration from 1975. Let me just lay these few lines before we start. Women deserve to be celebrated for their extraordinary contributions to the society, remarkable triumphs, and unmatched fearlessness for their own. Despite gender inequalities across all sectors all over the globe, women continue to beat all odds and thrive. So, let me conclude my introduction with this famous speech by a famous personality. Celebrating a day for women is not making her strength visible. Her strength is visible everywhere. It's about celebrating and changing the way the world perceives the strength. With this, I would like to request Professor Narendra Kumar Panda, our principal, to give his inaugural speech. Sir, please. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon to everybody. समस्तଙ୍କୁ प्रणाम। आज हूँ विश्व महिला दिवस। प्रति वर्ष मार्च 8 तारिख रे महिला माननकु सम्मान जणाई विश्व महिला दिवस पालन कराए। आम कॉलेज तरफरु मध्य प्रति वर्ष विश्व महिला दिवस पालन करू, किंतु चलित वर्ष आम महाविद्यालय संवाद साहित्य घर झारसुगुड़ा यूनिट रो मिलित आनुकूल्य रे विश्व महिला दिवस वर्चुअल मोड रे पालन करूछि। एई अवसर रे आमे अतिथि भाव रे पाइछु श्रीमती सुषमा पंडा महोदयांकु, जे आज आलोचना सभार आलोचना चक्र रो कीनोट स्पीकर। से दीर्घ वर्ष धरी मुंबई रो केसी कॉलेज रे पॉलिटिकल साइंस रो एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर भाव रे कार्यरत थिले। मु तांको हार्दिक स्वागत जणाउछि एलएन कॉलेज तरफरु एवं संवाद साहित्य घर तरफ। आज सभा रे आमे बोधे मैडम जॉइन करि नाहंती आमर गवर्निंग बॉडी रो प्रेसिडेंट सम्माननीय श्रीमती बलविंदर कौर महोदया को बहुत खुशी। से बोधे अल्प समय रे आम संगे जोड़ी हेबे। से मध्य स्थानीय वुमेन्स कॉलेज रो प्रिंसिपल भाव रे कार्यरत थिले ओ सेठारो अवसर ग्रहण करि साइछन। से आसिला परे तांको आउ थरे स्वागत जणाइबो। से बोधे जॉइन करि नाहंती। आज रो ए सभा को मु संवाद खबर कागजर जिला प्रतिनिधि श्रीयुक्त प्रशांत कुमार मिश्र को, संवाद साहित्य घर सभापति डॉक्टर स्वर्णमयी पुरोहित महोदया को, उपसभापति मंदाकिनी शतपथी और संपादक अक्षय कुमार पति महोदया को मध्य स्वागत करुछि। एई सभार आयोजन रे साहाय्य करथिबा आम कॉलेज रो तपन कुमार बारिक महोदय, भवेश पति एवं अन्यान्य आमर स्टाफ मान को मध्य एथरे जो माने जोड़ी चंती तांको स्वागत जणाउछि। एई वर्चुअल मोड सभा रे जो माने जोग देई चंती अन्य समस्तंकु मु आम कॉलेज तरफरु स्वागत जणाउछि। आज होछि विश्व महिला दिवस। एई अवसर रे मु कहिबा कि चाहे जे हमर समाज बा संसार रो प्रगति पाई नारी और पुरुष रो एक संतुलन रो आवश्यक। नारी और पुरुष उभय परिपूरक, केही सबल बा दुर्बल नहंती। प्रत्येक समय रे महिला मानन को निज अधिकार पाई संग्राम करिवा को पडुछि, जेउटा गोटे शुभ संकेत नुहे एक उन्नत समाज। महिला मानक सब बेले चापी दिया होची समाज रे। आज भी गोटे पुरुषर इंगित रे तार स्त्री भोट दे जाउची और जनप्रतिनिधि बाछुची। शताब्दी रे महिला माने प्रमाण दे साइछंती जे सेमाने कोनोसी प्रकारे गोटे पुरुष ठारू कम नहंती। तथापि नारी जाति को प्रति मुहूर्त रे असुविधार सम्मुखीन हवाकू पड़ुची। आम समाज पई यह गोटे लज्जाकर कथा जे आज भी नारी को तार अधिकार पई संग्राम करने को पड़ुची। नारी और पुरुषर संतुलन रखा हेले ओ नारीर सम्मान रखा हेले आमर मानसिकता बदलाइबा को पड़िबो। ताहेले एक सुस्थ समाजर गठन होई परिबो ओ आमे प्रगतिशील होई परिबा। एतिकिरे मोर वक्तव्य शेष करूची। धन्यवाद। आउ थरे मो समस्त को स्वागत जणाई एही सभा रे जोग दैथिबारु कृतज्ञता ज्ञापन करूची। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद सर। आज आम पाई प्रकृत रे सौभाग्यर विषय जे आमे रे केते जण बुद्धिजीवी को पाइछु जो मानकर दृष्टिभंगी हुए तो किछि मात्रा रे अन्य मानक ठारू अलगा ही थई पारे ताहा से मानकर वक्तव्य समय रे आमे अनुभव करि परिबा। तेबे इंटरनेशनल वुमेन्स डे 2022 रो वार्ता देबा पाई मु वर्तमान अनुरोध करिबी संवाद साहित्य घर झारसुगुड़ा शाखार संपादक श्रीयुक्त अक्षय कुमार पति को।
नमस्कार समस्त को शुभुचित।
हाँ
नमस्कार नमस्कार। लक्ष्मीनारायण महाविद्यालय रो अध्यक्ष प्रोफेसर नरेंद्र कुमार पंडा आजिर मंच सभा को परिचालना करुथबा इंग्राजी विभाग रो प्राध्यापिका डॉक्टर स्वर्णमयी पुरोहित, आजिर की नोट स्पीकर एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर सुषमा पंडा जी की केसी कॉलेज चर्चगेट मुंबई रो, आजिर आउ जणे की नोट स्पीकर रसायन विज्ञान विभाग रो अध्यापिका स्मिता बोस आउ लक्ष्मीनारायण महाविद्यालय रो गवर्निंग बॉडी रो अध्यक्षा तथा महिला महाविद्यालय रो प्राक्तन अध्यक्षा बलविंदर कौर मैडम एवं लक्ष्मीनारायण महाविद्यालय रो अर्थनीति विभाग रो प्राध्यापक तपन कुमार बारिक सर, इंग्राजी अध्यापिका पूर्णिमामयी दास मैडम, फिजिक्स विभाग रो भवेश पति सर आउ अन्यान्य अध्यापिका गण जो माने कि आज सभा जोड़ी होती, विद्यालय विभिन्न छात्र छात्री गण तथा यही आभासी माध्यम रे आंतर्जातिक महिला दिवस पालन अवसर रे लक्ष्मीनारायण महाविद्यालय और संवाद साहित्यगर तरफ मिलित आनुकूल्य रे पालन करा जाउतबा एही आभासी सभा रे जोड़ी होइतबा समस्त श्रोता को मु पुणी थरे विश्व महिला दिवस रो अभिनंदन ज्ञापन करुची। आमे जतेबेले ए जो महिला दिवस आंतर्जातिक महिला दिवस रो इतिहास उपरे देखिबा, यह वस्तुत्व आरंभ होइतिला गोटे श्रमजीवी महिला कर आंदोलन। अमेरिका और सोवियत रूस रो खटिखिया महिला माने ही विश्व महिला आंदोलन रो मूलदुआ पकईथिले। 1909 फेब्रुआरी 28 तारिख रे मार्किन समाजवादी दल नेतृत्व रे न्यूयॉर्क शहर रे एकजुट होइतिले प्राय 15,000 श्रमजीवी महिला। दाबी थिला सेमानंकर अधिक मजूरी आ भोट रो अधिकार। रूस विप्लव रो किछि पूर्वरु रूसीय श्रमजीवी महिला माने मध्य शह शह संख्यार राजरास्ता को ओह्लाइतिले। सेमानंकर स्लोगान थिला रुटी चाहूं आ शांति चाहूं। तो मुख्यतः भोट अधिकार समेत पुरुष मानक सहित समान अधिकार थिला सेमानंकर दाबी से दाबी पूरण करा जाई गोटे आईन पास हैला 1917 मसीहा फेब्रुआरी मासर शेष रविवार दिन किंतु ग्रेगोरियन कैलेंडर हिसाब रे रूसिया रो जो ग्रेगोरियन कैलेंडर अछि सेथिरे सेटा थिला मार्च मासर 8 तारीख ग्रेगोरियन कैलेंडर हिसाब तेणु प्राय यार 50-55 वर्ष पर 1975 मसीहा रे मार्च 8 तारीख को आंतर्जातिक महिला दिवस रूपे पालन करने आरंभ है जातिसंघर निर्देश क्रम तो से दिन ठारू एबे सारा विश्व रे मार्च 8 तारीख को आंतर्जातिक महिला दिवस रूपे पालन करा जाउची आउ एई दिवस रो उद्देश्य होउची जे महिला माने जो आह्वान रो सम्मुखीन होउचंती से संपर्क रे समाज को सचेतन करे महिला मानन को सही असुविधारू ऊपर को उठेबा एही दिवस रो आह्वान एही दिवस पालन रो उद्देश्य आउ महिला मानन को आमे गोटे माने परिपूरक पुरुष और महिला परस्पर को परिपूरक हिसाब रे जो दिन आमे देखिबा से दिन हुए तो आउ ए महिला दिवस पालन रो हुए तो आवश्यकता रही न पारे पुणी थरे समस्त को आंतर्जातिक महिला दिवस उपलक्षे मु अभिनंदन जनाऊची आउ सबु घरे सबु हृदय रे सबु समय रे सबु अनुभव रे जने नारी बिना खुशीर महत्वटा असंपूर्ण रही जाए आउ समस्त को पुणी थरे आंतर्जातिक महिला दिवस उपलक्षे अभिनंदन जनाऊची एवं समस्त को लक्ष्मीनारायण महाविद्यालय एवं संवाद साहित्य घर तरफ शुभेच्छा जनाई मोर वक्तव्य शेष करूँ धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much, Akshay. You have truly said that if women are properly respected in the society, if they will be given their place, then perhaps there will be no need of celebrating such kind of Women's Day, whether it is international, national, or local. Thank you very much for giving the message. Now, this is the time to listen to the plenary talk to be delivered by our Revered Madam Smita Bose. She is the head of the department, Chemistry of Lakshmi Narayan College. She has been very much associated with Aurobindo integral system. So she has a deeper knowledge about the impact of education in a person's life. And she wants to highlight that if a man is educated, a person is educated, if a woman is educated, really not only a family is educated, but a generation is educated. Madam, I would like to invite you to this platform and I would like to request you to deliver your talk. Madam, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Swarna ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And so much thank you again.
पथिया उठे देखो कौन साउंड आउछि
देखो जी सर ठीक है नंबर रिस्पेक्टेड Again, thank you, Swarna ma'am. And till now, yeah, already hour of our presence here, and I am moving to the topic. Respected President Ma'am, respected Principal Sir, respected Susoma Ma'am, respected Prasanta Mishra Sir, Akshayapati Sir, my colleagues, and my dear students. A very good afternoon to all and warm greetings of the day. Today we are here in one platform to observe International Women's Day. Actually, this day has given us the position where we are now. And always we are proud of our womanhood. This day marks a call to action for accelerating gender parity. It has been celebrated since 1911. It is a symbolic observation each year to celebrate achievements of women in social, economic, cultural, political, and research fields. It also raises awareness about women's equality lobby, accelerated gender parity, and fundraise for female-focused charities. And this year's theme is Break the Bias. Bias, no doubt, it is a hurdle. Whether deliberate or unconscious, bias makes it difficult for women to move forward. Knowing that bias exists is not enough. Action is needed to level the playing field. This should be the struggle and duty of each woman to avail justice and equality in every step. Recalling history, we can remember that the early days of 19th century was a time of great turbulence in the industrialization world that saw booming population growth and the rise of radical ideologies. In 1908, women's oppression and inequality was spurring women to become more vocal and active in campaigning for a change. Around that time, about 10,000 women marched New York City demanding shorter working hours, better pay, and voting rights. A year later, in accordance with a declaration by the Social Party of USA, the first National Women's Day was observed across US on 28 February. In 1910, an international conference of working women was held in Copenhagen, where Clara Zetkin of Denmark framed the idea of celebrating an International Women's Day because that was the problem all over the world, to press for their common and justified demands. This was unanimously approved by all the participants, and thus International Women's Day was the result. The first one was celebrated in Denmark, Austria, Germany, and Switzerland, and then it was moved from country to country. In India, the observation was from 1975 according to UN Charter only. In this auspicious occasion, I want to draw your attention towards education system. Each one present here will admit that our education policy is not well defined or not up to the point where one can say or claim that I am an educated fellow. So many steps are taken by the government from time to time to overcome the hurdles, but still, again the same thing happens, and we again say that no, this system is not adequate. So now one personal thing here I want to share, that I am attached with Sri Aurobindo Ashram Pondicherry to some extent. I have stayed there for some months and observed the type of education taught there, which is known as integral education. There exists no competition for coming first in class, no hankering to have a job with good salary, or no separate lines for boys and girls. The students are completely independent. Completely independent and able for any form of work there. And surprisingly, they are also able to qualify for good post in their career. Now I am speaking some of the processes there framed by the mother of the ashram. She has no formal education, though she is a French lady. Only through prayer, meditation, and practice, she has the spiritual touch with the Almighty. And her words and advice gives a person a complete perfection. Here I am focusing some guidelines for a teacher framed by her. In one sentence, we can define education as a pure enthusiasm of knowledge and knowledge sake. For this process to continue, two things are required: students and teachers. The teacher is not an instructor or taskmaster. He is a helper and a guide. His business is to suggest and not to impose. He doesn't actually train the pupil's mind. He only shows how to perfect his instruments of knowledge and helps and encourages him. He shows him how to acquire knowledge for himself. He doesn't call forth the knowledge that is within. He only shows him where it lies and how it can be habituated to rise to the surface. The teacher should have an ample enough documentation to answer every question with true intellectual altitude and the capacity of the true knowing with a sort of demonstration. Demonstrations are always accepted for the students from top to bottom. The students get the capacity to think only at the age of approximately 7. At the age of 14 to 15, the power of thinking is very clear. The children should be given little indications at the age of 7 and a complete expansion of how to do it, and that it is the only way to be in relation with the deeper truth of things at the age of 14 and onwards. And some simple advices of the mother to the teachers are like this. Have a sincere beginning of discipline and experience. Never make a mistake. Never lose your temper. Always understand. And to know and see clearly why there has been this movement or impulse, or to think what is the thing to be strengthened and brought forward. To leave them free, to blossom simply, to give them the opportunity to see many things, to touch many things, to do as many things as possible. Never scold the student. Try to understand and try to explain the situation. Never impose your thinkings on them, nor motivate them to become a rolling stone. Allow them to blossom quite naturally as the beings grows. True education must have 5 principles relating to the 5 principal activities of the human being: physical, vital, mental, psychic, and spiritual. These phases of education succeed each other in a chronological order following the growth of the individual. All the 5 should continue, completing each other till the end of life. All should be practiced one by one to study the reciprocal relations also. The parents should motivate their children for this process to continue, and it will result to produce good humans. The elite of humanity may be made ready, who would be able to work for the progressive unification of the race, and who at the same time would be prepared to embody the new force descending upon earth to transform it. This is integral education, and motto of the mother to open integral schools all over the world. Another thing I can say you, if you can, then just search Auroville process of education, which is prevailed there. There is no country, no state, nothing else there. Only education and a system. Then the system is in such a way that education will not help, that the environment is also in that way there, that ultimately education and the environment will be equal there. There we cannot find whether a man is from Russia or from America or from India. We all are one. This is feel there. And that is the outcome of this integral education only. If education grows in all the parts, then we can very well know that we are educated. So this is regarding our integral education, and today a few lines I must say about the views of the mother on the relationship between man and woman. It is the relationship between Purusha and Prakriti. All the universe has been created to express the divine power on earth. All human beings, men or women, have specific mission for that purpose. Practically, this is not happening. Women's part was decided to solely interior and domestic occupations, and man's part to exclusively exterior and social occupation, which profoundly made a separation between the sexes. Mother denies this. She says everything is equal in both. The sexes only difference is in physical constitution only, but the arrogant mental pretensions of some men creates this inequality. In some cases, women are humiliated to the extreme also. But one thing women should remember, that no law can liberate them unless they liberate themselves. How they will? To get free from this slavery, we can say. Women have to stand strongly, neglectly the attraction towards man and his strength, desire for homely environment and its security, and attachment to motherhood. Finally, she will win and can get the purity of love and affection. The lost things will again return to her. This topic is so vast for debate, and we have bounded by timelines. With this, I am concluding my discussion. Again, I am thankful to our principal sir and IQAC in charges for giving me a platform to share my views before you. Thank you all again.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for sharing your views regarding integral education and Srima's point of view about not only education but also man and woman relationship. And you have rightly pointed out that a woman does not need anyone else to liberate her, but the talents, the potential which she is having, that can only help her to liberate herself. Thank you, madam, for these nice words. Now, this is the time for our request. Let me request our guest. She had been in Mumbai for so many years, but she is the daughter of the soil. She is the daughter-in-law of the soil, Madam Susma Panda. Though I know her as Madam Susma Sarangi, she has been my sister, and this is really a great opportunity for me to invite her to my college to deliver her talk. But before inviting her, let me take this privilege to introduce her and give her introduction. She had been an associate professor for 36 years in in KC College, Churchgate, Mumbai. and recently she had retired just 1 year before in June 2020. And in this long career of her as a teacher and as a lecturer, she had taken interest as this is her subject in Indian government and politics, gender studies, human rights, public policy, and political theory. She had been the chairperson of Board of Studies Political Science for the revised syllabus of her university for 2017 and 18. She has been presently also currently she has been the chairperson of Board of Studies HSMC University Mumbai. She was a member of Academic Council. She is a member of Academic Council. She has been visiting faculty of Maharashtra Institute of Labor Studies, Mumbai, and she was a very good teacher. She was her students. They have been loving her, and we would like to listen to her on a very significant topic. As we all know that recently Panchayat election has been over, and we are expecting municipality election in Odisha. And at this situation, we must listen from her. This is the very significant topic: women's reservation, path for effective political participation. Madam, I would like to invite you to no doubt a virtual platform to our college, and I would like to request you to present your paper.
Madam Parat, you forgot. She is the first principal of Women's College, Jharsuguda.
How can I forget that? She was the first ever principal of Women's College, Jharsuguda. This is really a very proud moment for us to have you with us.
Thank you, Swarna, and I take the liberty to call you by name because I know you for so many years. Okay, formally, thank you, Dr. Swarna Purohit. Good afternoon, everyone. The organizing committee, Dr. Professor Narendra Pandya, Principal LN College, organizers from Sambad Sahityaghara, Mr. Prashant Mishra, Mr. Akshay Kumar Pati, Sipra Bose Madam, Balwinder Kaur Madam. I don't know whether she is present here. At the outset, I am extremely thankful to the organizing committee for inviting me. For the reason, basically, as you have already mentioned, that I started my teaching career from Jharsuguda in 1982. So in 1982, though for a very brief period, I was the principal of Jharsuguda Women's College. And after 4 decades, exactly after 40 years, I get another opportunity to speak to the students from Jharsuguda. Okay, a lot of changes in the meantime. In last 40 years, I have taught in various places. But as Swarna pointed out, that I am the daughter of the soil, daughter-in-law of the soil. So eventually, I had to come back to my own place, and it's a great privilege to address today on International Women's Day. This is a day when we recall our struggle for the rights, for gender equality, for gender justice. This is also a day to recognize, to acknowledge our contribution to the society, because any society, and particularly a democratic society, cannot be successful, cannot be meaningful without participation of the entire population. And women's participation, the debate on women's participation is a global phenomenon. This is not a debate, ongoing debate only in India, but it's a global phenomenon because women constitute half of the population. But if we look at worldwide, except very few countries, they are politically deprived in participating in the decision-making process. When I thought of selecting a topic to speak, I selected this particular topic. As Swarna again pointed out, in the backdrop of recently concluded Panchayati Raj election in Odisha and the upcoming municipality election, and at the same time, the state elections which are going on. And the results are awaited for the state assembly election in some states, And recently also some states went for the election. Now, why I selected this topic, again, there was another reason, because in 2008-9, I had undertaken an UGC minor research project, and my topic for that UGC minor research project was women's participation and empowerment in urban local governance. And that was the time I had selected Sambalpur municipalities and Jharsuguda municipalities. So after so many years, again, maybe I will get an opportunity to present some of the findings which I had studied. Of course, there are a lot of improvements in last 12 to 13 years. In 2017-18, my students under my guidance had undertaken another project, and that was in Bruhan, Mumbai Municipal Corporation, which is popularly known as BMC. And BMC is the richest municipal corporation. The budget of BMC is more than the budget of Odisha. The budget of BMC is almost 4 times, the combined budget of 4 of the northeastern state is less than BMC's budget. And there are more than about 229 corporators. But when they studied, and when I compared what I studied in Sambalpur and Jharsuguda, and when we undertook this particular project in Mumbai, I found that basically the problems remain the same. Maybe people are more educated there, people may be richer, but when we go to the basic problem, and the problem lies with patriarchy. Okay, I'll share my screen because I have prepared a PowerPoint. And before that, I must also tell that India is committed to gender justice, gender equality. India's democracy is a vibrant democracy, but this democracy cannot be meaningful if half of the population will be deprived. So political participation, political empowerment, political representation, these are basically the key words in today's ongoing political discourse. After 75 years of independence, though the Indian political system is committed to egalitarianism and particularly gender equality, we find that there's a gap between reality and theory. Whether gender equality is a myth or reality, that is very, very evident in women's participation. So I'll start with some of the statistics. So in the beginning of the presentation, I will start with some of the statistics which will prove that how women's participation in India today is quite low. Okay. And if you look at the title of my presentation, Women's Reservation Path for Effective Political Participation, I have put a question mark. There is a question mark because, am I audible? Yes?
Yes, Nani, you are audible.
Okay. Basically, if we look at the title of this particular discussion or discourse, that women's reservation path for effective political participation, and I have put a question mark, and the question mark is up to us to decide whether reservation, particularly the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts, have brought that kind of qualitative change in the political participation of women, and the pending legislation which is still there to bring reservation for the state legislature and parliament. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, that India is committed to gender equality, which is quite visible in many of the constitutional provisions. If there are students of political science, they know that preamble very clearly mention, or preamble of Indian Constitution basically talks about 4 principles: justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Preamble of Indian Constitution tries to bring gender justice, and that gender justice is basically translated. Can you see the screen? All of you?
Not visible.
Whether presentation is visible?
No, not visible.
Okay. 1 minute then.
Should I share from this side?
Okay, I think I have sent you. So the second one, please. So please share then.
Okay. नहीं से कौन इंट लगे
नहीं, better if she can share.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, next slide, please.
And not audible also.
Okay. Am I audible now? Yes. So, okay, let me start again. As I mentioned that Indian Constitution is committed to gender equality, which is manifested in various provisions of Indian Constitution, starting with preamble, which talks about justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Various fundamental rights, right to equality, particularly Article 14, 15, and 16, right to freedom, 19, Article 19, right to life with human dignity, Article 21, right to education, Article 21A, and right against exploitation, Article 23 and 24. In addition to these fundamental rights, we have the Constitution also provides certain economic rights through directive principle of state policy. If you look at equal pay for equal work, maternity leave, some of the privileges which women are enjoying today are part of the directive principles of state policy. Fundamental duties, which was added to the Constitution by 42nd Amendment Act, is also committed to respect the dignity of women. But the most important part of Indian Constitution, and which we are going to focus on, was 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, which guaranteed 33 or 1/3 reservation in local governance, that is Panchayati Raj institutions and municipalities. And this is very, very heartening to note that Odisha was the first state, even before 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment.
You are mute again. Hello. Hello.
I think I have lost my network. This is okay. Even Odisha is one of the first states to introduce 50% as an institution. At present, there are 20 states, and India was again a pioneering state in this. So 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, which basically introduced this 33% of reservation, is a success story, because almost after 30 years and almost after 5 to 6 elections now, in many states, there is a qualitative change. There is a qualitative change in women's participation. But the problem lies with the fact that the problem still lies with the fact that in case of parliament or union legislature and state legislative assemblies, we do not have that kind of reservation, and there is a very dismal participation of women. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, now coming to gender equality and gender justice, India is also committed to some of the international obligation. India has ratified some of the international convention like UDHR, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, 1966, International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, 1966, the Declaration of Elimination of All Forms of Violence Against Women, 93, and the most important one is Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, that is popularly known as CEDAW. Since India has ratified these international conventions, so India is always under an obligation to provide gender justice and gender equality. I will start with some of the statistics as I mentioned in the beginning, because those statistics will clearly indicate that how far India has achieved this gender justice and gender equality in terms of political participation. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, here basically I have given the statistics showing from the first Lok Sabha to 17th Lok Sabha, starting with 1952 to 2019, and the representation of women in Lok Sabha. If we look at 1952, women representation in Lok Sabha was limited to 22, which is 4.9%. For a long time, that was till 2009, it never crossed 2 digit. So for the first time in 2009, it crossed 2 digit, that 10.9. In 2014, 11.4, and 2019, that is the ongoing parliament today, we have only 78 members. In a house of 543, we have only 78 women members, that is about 14.4%. If after 75 years of independence, we talk about egalitarianism, we talk about vibrant democracy, we talk about the largest democracy, but the myth still lies in the fact that women representation is quite low in Lok Sabha. Now, if we compare it with other countries, okay, next slide, please. If we compare with other, okay, next one, next slide. Because this is another graphical, yes. If we compare with other countries or with other national legislature, we can find the difference. So India ranks 144 in this gender gap index, particularly when the national legislature is concerned. Because if you look at a country like Rwanda, has more than 63% of representation in their national legislature. It's an African country and way behind India when we talk about development, we talk about vibrant democracy, but still it has a very, very high percentage of women representation. And look at India. India is at the bottom 20 countries. Can you believe that even Pakistan, Bangladesh, they are ahead of India when it comes to women representation in their national legislature. And India, which boasts of one of the developed countries today, has only 14.4% today, and that is the highest in last 75 years. Now, next slide, please. And when we talk about gender equality, gender justice, women's right, this is not without any struggle or without any movement. So I have very briefly given a timeline of women's struggle. This ongoing struggle started even before independence. And when the national movement was going on in 1917, particularly a delegation of Indian women, they met the Secretary of the State to demand franchise or the right to vote. In 1930s, right to vote was granted, but it was limited right. It was given only to the propertied women. However, some women were allowed to participate in the legislative bodies. In 1930s, the women's movement was again divided into two groups. One group was called Equal Right Group, and the other group was called Women's Uplift Group. The second group, that is the Women's Uplift Group, they made the Simon Commission, and they testified before Simon Commission. And Simon Commission recommended reservation of seat for women under limited franchise. Whereas the Equal Rights Group, they advocated for universal adult franchise. They never wanted any kind of reservation. They wanted equal right for men and women. And therefore, in 1937, for the first time, in provincial assembly election, 1 to 4% of seats were reserved for women. And the women were about, I think, if I remember correctly, I think about 53 women members were elected to provincial assembly in 1937. So the struggle for equal rights and gender justice is not a post-independent phenomenon, or it is not a phenomenon of 90s or 21st century, but it goes back to the beginning of the 20th century when the national movement was going on. Next slide, please. Now coming to debate on women's reservation, and here we come to the post-independent for equal committee on the status of women in India was appointed. The committee came out with equal rights report towards equality. That was the name of the report, towards equality. So the committee came out with the report towards equality, and it recommended the establishment of statutory women panchayat in every village. The committee also proposed the reservation of seats in legislature, which was opposed by most of the political parties. So in 1975, when the topic of reservation came up, it was not accepted by political parties. After that, the 6th five-year plan, that was the period 1980 to 85, it included a chapter on women and development. In 1985, a core group was constituted to prepare the long-term policy document for the empowerment of women, which basically resulted in the National Perspective Plan for Women in 1988. There's a chapter there in chapter 7 of this document. There is it mentions political participation and decision making, and it recommended 33% of seats in all level, starting from the village to the union level. So this report for the starting with 1975, that is the Committee on the Status of Women in India, to 1985, there are different developments, and ultimately this resulted in the enactment of 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act 1992. Okay, next slide, please. Now, when we talk about women's reservation in the post-independence period, one of the landmarks or one of the major development is the enactment of 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act, which provides 1/3 or 33% of reservation in Panchayati Raj institution, and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, which secures 1/3 reservation in municipalities. Now, this should be noted that when this reservation was introduced, or when 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act were enacted, there was no opposition. In fact, it was welcomed by everyone, and then we introduced reservation for the first time. But when it comes to state legislature and union legislature, there is a blatant opposition, and which I come to discuss later on. Now, in fact, when 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts were enacted in 92, implemented in 94, and when more and more women started participating in these institutions, number of a plethora of literature came up, particularly relating to Panchayati Raj institutions. Number of research works were conducted. There were researchers who spoke for reservation in local governance. There were researchers who argued against. So here I have taken, after going through different literature, I have just summed up that how these arguments for and against reservation in local governance are there. Okay, those who support reservation in Panchayati Raj institution and municipality, they argue on 3 grounds. The first one is gender justice. What does it mean? Gender justice, that the participation of women or the presence of women in political bodies should be in proportion to their presence in the society. That means if women constitute 50% of the society, then their presence in any kind of political bodies should be in proportion to that. The second argument is women's interest. And those who argue in this line, they say that when women represent, they basically represent their own interest. because most of the time in these lawmaking bodies, we see that women's interests are always, basically they are not giving that kind of attention. But when women are representative, they particularly, they are more efficient, they are more competent to bring out their own interest. I remember here reading an article in 90s. There was a term BSP, and BSP is not Bahujan Samaj Party, but those days it was Bijli Sadak Pani. Because when women come to Panchayati Raj, they are more concerned about Bijli Sadak Pani, because they have to go long way to bring water. Their children have to go long way to attend school, and electricity is a major problem. So that was the time when it was argued that when women represent, they are more concerned about the interest than the male members. And the third one is that women as the valuable resources. And here we look at the feminine quality of the members, because women are basically given some kind of qualities which bring a change, a qualitative change in the policy making. So when more and more women come to lawmaking bodies, also there is a kind of change in the policies and laws. So those who are the proponents or those who are the supporters, they basically argue in these three lines: the gender justice, women's interest, and women as valuable resources. But there are also social activists, there are also researchers who speak against this kind of reservation, particularly in Panchayati Raj. There are, in 90s, up to 2000, there were many literature, and there were many research were conducted on Panchayati Raj institution, and they come out with these kind of arguments. And the first argument, in fact, this argument is still valid today, proxy argument. Most of these members who come to these local bodies or local governing bodies, they are the proxy candidates. They are either daughter-in-law, or wife of male candidates. And if we look at Madhu Kishwar, a researcher and social activist, and she has coined the word that Bibi Beti Bahu Brigade. And she very vehemently criticized this kind of reservation, and she argued that this 33% reservation in local governance created a kind of Bibi Beti Bahu brigades where daughter-in-laws or wife, they represented their male counterpart. Why this happened? Because as all of us will know, after so many years, that these seats are basically reach out on rotation basis. Suppose a male member has nurtured the constituency or has nurtured his ward for 5 years, he will not like to go to some other candidate, and therefore basically these proxy candidates, they come to the picture. Many of them, they lack the training, many of them, they lack political motivation, many of them may be forced to come to Panchayati Raj institutions and municipalities. So this kind of vehement criticism, and I really like Madhu Kishwar's this phrase, that is Bibi Beti Bahu brigades. The second argument is that, which is also known as elite conspiracy. And this elite conspiracy, it means that reservation will bring only, or it will benefit only the women from the privileged class, the marginalized class, the deprived class. They will always remain marginalized, and it will not politically benefit them. The third one, the third criticism, which is that when reservation will be mandatory, or when 33% of women will come to parliament, there may be, in the beginning at least, there may be a difficulty in finding women candidates. So in the process, what will happen, that many incompetent women, because it will be statutory and mandatory, many incompetent women may come, and this will lead to inefficiency and incompetency. In fact, maybe in the beginning of the introduction or the enactment of 73rd and 74th Amendment Act, it was there. But after 30 years now, we see that there is a qualitative change in Panchayati Raj institutions. And therefore, we also believe that if this kind of reservation will be introduced in the state legislatures or union legislatures, there will be definitely a qualitative change. Next slide, please. Now we come to the most critical part of this debate now, reservation of women in parliament and the state legislature. This is an ongoing debate, and the whole debate started as it is mentioned that in 1975 towards equality report. that was the time when women activists passionately discussed this, passionately they talked about reservation of women, and ultimately they had to be satisfied with 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. But the Women's Reservation Bill, for the first time, I have given a timeline here so that students, those who do not know about the whole development will understand this. The Women's Reservation Bill, for the first time, it was introduced in Lok Sabha on 12 September 1996. That was the time when Deve Gowda was the Prime Minister. But this bill was never put to vote. There was a discussion, and I still remember when this bill was discussed in Lok Sabha, there were many derogatory comments given by some of the regional parties. And I still remember Sarath Yadav, who used the term Parkati Mahilaएं, that is women with short hair, with women with blonde hair. That means basically what he meant that women from the elite class will come to parliament and the marginalized class will not come. So these kind of derogatory comments, derogatory words were used against women representation, and most of the regional parties, particularly RJD, Samajwadi parties, they criticized women reservation bill. That was the time also they demanded quota within the quota. That means within 33% reservation, women reservation, there should be also OBC reservation. Whatever the nature of discussion in Lok Sabha was there, but ultimately the bill lapsed and it never saw the light. The bill was again introduced when NDA was there, NDA government was there. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, so he tried to push the bill in 1998, 1999, 2002, 2003, but it was without any success. Then again, UPA government introduced the bill in May 2008. The bill was passed by Rajya Sabha on 9th March, and that was again the next day of International Women's Day. And all the women members, I still remember that that jubilant picture of the women members who came together because the bill was passed in Rajya Sabha. I still remember the vibrant face of Savana Azmi with the copy of this bill. But again, what happened to that bill, that in 2010, 9th March, the bill was passed by Rajya Sabha, but the bill was pending in Lok Sabha. The bill was never put to vote in Lok Sabha. The bill lapsed now, and it was in 15th Lok Sabha. Now 17th Lok Sabha is going on. In both 16th and 17th Lok Sabha, the current government is with absolute majority. And if there is a political will, the bill would have saw the light of the day, but it never happened. A few regional parties, even when this bill was passed in Rajya Sabha, a few regional parties, in fact, the same regional parties, particularly RJD and Samajwadi Party, they were the vocal opponents. They criticized the bill and the same demand that there should be quota within the quota, there should be OBC reservation within women reservation. Okay, next slide, please. There are divergent views when we talk about women reservation policy, and in the context of state legislatures and union legislatures, there are divergent views on reservation policy. There are proponents and there are opponents. Now, the proponents, those who support the women reservation bill, they stress basically there's a need for affirmative action to improve the condition of women. Women will never come to union legislature or parliament on their own. No political party will field one-third candidate. And therefore, it has to be mandatory. And so if you want to increase women's participation, there has to be one-third, there has to be a quota, or there has to be a gender quota. And this example we take from 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, because once it became mandatory how women participated, and they participate, there's a qualitative change in the nature of functioning. Now, in fact, there are many opponents, and those opponents basically argue that this will perpetuate the unequal status of women. Why it will perpetuate the unequal status? Because they will not come on their merit. They will come because it will be mandatory, and therefore they will be always perceived to be competing on merit. There will be always that gap between the merit and the compulsion, and therefore the opponents of this bill, they criticize that the unequal status of women will never improve. The second argument they give that the voters will have limited choice. When there will be only women candidates, there will be a restriction on the choice of voters. The third one, and which I must mention here, that the Women Reservation Bill has a policy that the constituency will be reserved for women on rotation basis, just like in Panchayati Raj and municipality. So when it will be reserved on rotation basis, what will happen? That the MP, the male members of parliament, may not have that kind of incentive to work if he knows that in the next election, this will be reserved for women. So these are some of the arguments. And in addition to these arguments, the same argument of proxy candidates, the Bibi Beti Bohu Brigade, those arguments still remain. So even from 1996 to date, 2022, almost after 25 years, for the first time when the bill was introduced, and today there is no improvement or there is no initiative in making women's participation in parliament a reality. Okay, next one, please. Next slide, please. Now the question arises, what is way forward, or what is to be done? What can be done to basically improve women's participation in political sphere? Now, when the whole discussion or whole debate was going on, there was also one suggestion which may not be very practical. The suggestion was that there should be some constituency should be dual constituency. Dual constituency means from some constituency, two members should be elected. One should be women member and the other should be the male member. So look at the absurd argument. If we have already 543 members in parliament, so 1/3 means it comes to 178. So in 178 constituency, one male member and one female member will come. So 543 plus 178. So Lok Sabha will consist of that number of, and you know that what kind of pressure will be there on voters' resources, because basically to provide that kind of infrastructure to so many members or to conduct election, we need that kind of infrastructure. But this argument was also going on. The second, if we look at the other suggestions, because you have already seen the success story of Panchayati Raj institution and with the kind of role women are playing today, and therefore at the grassroots level, and therefore looking at their success story, we should be optimistic that reservation for women in state legislature and union legislature will also bring that kind of qualitative participation. There is also a need for fundamental reforms in party level. But we know, and most of us, we know that the party will never field 1/3 women candidates. And many a time also we notice that when they field women candidates from a particular constituency, when they know that there is no winning prospect in that particular constituency. But if we want to enhance political participation of women in national legislature and state legislature, so then each political party has to ponder over this. They have to bring fundamental reforms at their own level, and they have to give tickets to at least a particular number of women candidates, and not from the losing constituencies, but from the constituencies where there is a prospect to it. Qualitative participation is more important than quantitative participation. Of course, it is true, but only quantitative participation will lead to qualitative participation. So women representatives, they need civic training, they need that kind of political training, they need also resources, they need motivation, and therefore this is essential that all political parties, irrespective of their party ideology, they must also work towards this kind of motivation to enhance political participation. We need to bring institutional, social, and behavioral change among India's population. When I talk about the institutional changes, of course, institutional changes will be at the government level. But when you talk about the social and behavioral change, this is basically because we have a patriarchal society. and patriarchy is deep rooted in Indian society. And not only patriarchy, but there is multiple level of patriarchy. Multiple patriarchy in the sense that women suffer. They do not suffer because they are women, but they suffer because they are women from Dalit community, because they are women from scheduled caste, women from scheduled tribe, women from marginalized class. And therefore, women as a category is not a neutral category. Women as a category also have different types of problems. For example, if you look at the Panchayati Raj, if a woman go to attend a meeting in Panchayati Raj institution, then maybe she is a daily wage worker and she has to sacrifice her daily wage for that particular day. And here we are not talking about women as neutral category, but women as a member of different level of different communities, and therefore there's a need to change in the behavior, in the attitude, and behavior and attitude, particularly in the patriarchal attitude of the male community. Now, if we look at gender rights, gender equality, gender justice, no doubt India has achieved in theory, but if you look at the social, the gender equality might have happened in theory, but if you look at the practice, the social, political, institutional inequality still remains. And therefore, here also I want to mention some of my findings, which I did in 2008 and 9, and later on in 2016 and 17. And one thing which is very heartening, that when one of the questions which was asked to them, that have they come to or have they contested out of their own will, almost every women member, they said that they were not forced, but they wanted to take part in the decision-making process. The second thing, which was very common in all three municipalities, because in 2008-9 in Sambalpur, Jharsuguda, and in 2017 and 18 in Mumbai Municipal Corporation, BMC, the largest corporation of India and the richest corporation of India, that basically when you look at different committees, because there are different committees in municipalities, and most of these women, they are not member of important committees. Very few, maybe one or two, maybe member of finance committee, and they are members of very negligible, means those kind of committees which do not basically contribute to the decision-making process. The third question which I put to them, because 2008 when I conducted this study, this was 2003 to 2008. And when I submitted my report, the next election was held. So basically I made from two consecutive local governing board. So when this question was put, that are they interested to come to come to municipality in the next election, everyone had an affirmative answer, they want to come back. But when I came back to study again, I did not see a single old face, because those constituencies were not reserved. So in their place, male members were there. And the same thing even happened in Mumbai, because in 2019, when BMC election took place, the members never came back. So the problems are deep-rooted. The same problems, the patriarchal attitude, the sexual violence, domestic violence, deprivation in economic field, the same kind of problem still remains. So therefore, I want to conclude that if we want to make democracy more meaningful, successful, more vibrant, then participation of women, not only at the local level, but at the state level and at the union level, is imperative. If we want to bring a change, each political party has to think, each political party has to ponder, and irrespective of their differences in political ideologies, they must come together to think over this. Okay, thank you. Thank you for giving me a patient hearing, and I hope that I have fulfilled that kind of expectation which I was supposed to speak. And thank you again, organizing committee, for giving me this chance to present my view. It's my pleasure, because to speak to my own people, it's always a pleasure to speak to your own people. And that's why, again, okay, I'm extremely thankful to the organization.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, madam. It was really a pleasure to listen to you, and you have deliberated in such a nice manner and presented such information for us, that we also realize that if democracy in India is going to be a successful one, then educated women must come to the front, and they should be given scopes to rise into their own levels. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We would like to listen from you in some other occasions also. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Now, I would like to request, first of all, I would like to welcome Ma'am Balvinder Kaur, first ever woman president of Allen College, Jharsuguda governing body. She is with us, though she has so many other engagements today. And in spite of that, she is giving us time. And now the platform is for her. I welcome you, ma'am, and I request you to present your opinion regarding today's celebration and your views. Madam, please.
Thank you, Swarno. I'm audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible, Swarno?
Audible, ma'am.
Okay. So first of all, my best wishes to all the lovely ladies. Happy Women's Day to all of you. And I was just listening to Shushma Madam. She had a brilliant description about how women's participation should be there in every field. And she is a student of political science. So, Madam, you have done the research work so nicely.
Thank you, ma'am.
You have put all the things so that we also don't know. But actually, I came late, and I wanted to listen to you, but actually, still then, it's okay. So I understood that the participation which a woman should have, that should be 50-50%, because this is the theme of today's Women's Day, that gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. If you want to sustain tomorrow, then the gender equality must be 50-50. So this is that recognizes woman and girl. Now they have highlighted the issue, and that is of the climate change also. And they're taking the charges, leading this year, that the theme is to celebrate and how honor them. We have to honor the woman class, especially the woman class, and to celebrate their womanhood. Women, this is the future hope of the country. As we say that the students are the future of the country, but today I will just change that point and say that the women are the girls are the future hope of the country. And the month of March celebrates them. 8 March gives us an opportunity to celebrate them. But why should 8 of March only celebrate? Every day is a celebration for Women Day. So March signifies that women in the history of, if you turn down the pages of history, you will find that every successful woman, they have contributed to the utmost level, and only for the benefit of the, now just I was, the serial is coming, Ahilya Bai Holkar, the serial which is coming. She is a lady, she is a woman, and how she started to make women independent. That is also a very great issue. That time it was such a conservative and such a traditional arena in which we women were living. But she was the first lady that who came out and made it a point that yes, women have to come out and they have to stand on their feet, and then only they can earn something, and then they can give it to the society. They can contribute to the society to the utmost level. So there are so many examples. Not only Ahilya Bai, but we should take her into granted, because Ahilya Bai Holkar started it with a very small issue by making sarees. And today that sarees are so famous, as our Sambalpuri sarees are famous, and all women ladies and all international level also our Sambalpuri sarees has gone. There also the brain behind is the woman. Though we say that the gents are weaving it and doing it, but actually the design and everything which has been done, it has been done by the ladies, and the woman brain is not less than our counterpart. So
we have to pay the achievements about the cultural, the political, and the socio-economical platform. And this is the day which reminds us that gender is equal, a world that has no room for bias, stereotypes, and differences. Everyone is treated equally, celebrated, and valued. So this world is only for those who treat women equal. So now we are in the 21st century. 21st is going, 22nd century is coming. Still then, people think that women cannot do much. I was just having the meeting, 2-3 meetings I attended where I saw the women were rushing to attend and listen to the what we are going to say. 5,000 women were there, madam, at a stance, and we were not able to believe that such a big crowd, how they came out, all the village women. They were the village women who came out from their houses. And why they came in such a, the sun is so scorching and you are sitting there only to listen to us that what we are going to say. And everybody was, then only I thought that, yes, this is the day that women are coming in such a large number to attend the meeting. And naturally, the change has come. This is the change. And what they have suffered throughout their life, they told us, and their lives have to be modified, their life have to be highlighted, their lives that they have to learn today what we have to teach them. We cannot teach them. Women are always self-taught, but still then these things has to be given to them. Their honor, their rights, their duties, they must be made aware of. So they were so happy to know. We are having this seminar, we are having this virtual meeting, all are educated once we are sitting down and we know that these are the things. But what about those things? Madam, you rightly pointed out, Sushma Madam, that the marginalized women who are there in the outside, those who want to contest, but the things are so going against them that they are not able to come. There are so many circumstances involved, political circumstances, economic circumstances, health circumstances, so many things are there. So we have to take into ground all women and girls, they deserve a life full of dignity, full of love, full of human touch, and free from violence. So and this year, the Women Day website has also told us that this year theme is break the bias. In inverted comma, break the bias. Okay, the international theme, they have told us that you have to break it, then only we have to sustain, then only we will be sustaining it. And celebrating women, whether professionally or personally, is a sense of commitment, madam, to each and every woman in one's life. Every year on March 8, International Women Day is commemorated. Every day we go and we celebrate, we just give our speeches, we come back. I don't think this will do much. We have to be practical in that manner. And for that practical, we have to approach to the government, those who are sitting in the government, the chief minister, sir, those who are the law-making members, the prime minister, sir, the chief minister, sir, the lawmakers, they have to modify the laws and they have to make a law which will be very much applicable to us so that we women will be safer in our own approach. And from all walks of life, you will see women will gather together around the country, spanning from cultural to ethnic, and they will divide to commemorate their battle for peace, justice, equality, and progress for the country. International Women's Day is all about valuing oneself and really realizing that one's full potential. But we Indians, we know what goes behind it, and we have done the research work, you have done the research work, you come to know that what is the real battle going on, and in the real field, how things are just go opposite. So for that, people has to make the laws in such a manner that nobody can take undue advantage for our class. I welcome all the members of the staff there, and Shushma Madam, the first principal of Women's College Jharsuguda. It's very nice to see you, Madam, and it is very heart touching also that you were the first principal. I was not able to meet you, but I just saw you were there, and you are tremendous. You are really you have done such a good work in your field that really your name is still now in the golden letters of Women's College history. We
Thank you.
remember you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We remember you.
Feeling nostalgic, actually feeling nostalgic.
Yeah, madam. I love to meet you personally, but
Oh,
due
my
to all the
pleasure.
schedule, yeah, so much today is so engagements, no heavy engagements. So that's why I really felt bad that being the president of the college, I was not able to join properly. I just came back from my meeting. Again, another meeting is there. I have to rush back, but still then I joined and I heard you, and that was a very successful event for me. So let's all the women join hands together and let us do the pray to the government. Let us write down something so good. So the government will also remember that yes, the educated women from this college, from this locality, they have come forward with certain message which gives us the Nari Shashastirkaran. Government is always ready to do something for us. So why not in pen and paper? Let them do in practical. Actually, Odisha government is doing practically very good work, but still then more work has to be done by them. So the 33% reservation Naveen Patnaik sir has told us, and he has given also in the elections we have seen. But what about the parliaments? What about in other categories? What about in the education system? Main thing is in the services. Why not 33% reservation should be given? Why not? Why 33? 50% reservation should be there, I must say, so that our future generation will be more secure, more happy, and they will be more confident to work for the nation. Thank you, all of you, once again for your kind cooperation and listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. And it's really a pleasure to address today. And okay, I would always like to be associated with more academic activities. Hopefully,
Madam.
I can do it.
We would love to listen to you again, madam. You are staying in Jharsuguda, na?
For the time being, yes, almost for 1 year I've been staying in Jharsuguda.
Acha. So we will meet. How long you are here, madam?
At least third week of April, I'm here.
Acha, you are here. Then I'll surely meet you, madam. I'll surely meet you. Thank you. Okay, Swarno, continue with you. Okay. Another paper is there?
No, ma'am. Just we are going towards the concluding remarks and
Okay.
vote of thanks. But before that, let me thank you, madam, for your nice gesture, for being with us. Really, today is a very significant session for us because we are with us two principals of Women's College, Jharsuguda.
Yes.
That is the real women empowerment.
That is the yeah, madam, you rightly said.
Thank you very much. Now, this is as we are heading towards the end. I would like to request Madam Mandakini Satpathy, Vice President, Sambad Sahitya Ghara Jharsuguda, to give the concluding remarks and propose the vote.
Mandakini is there.
Yes, madam. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Samastangu pranam. I am thankful to all the participants for the nice program. I am thankful to the principals, LN College, Jharsuguda, Mr. N.K. Panda, for this nice program. And I am thankful to Dr. Swarnamay Purohit, Sambad Sahitya Ghara, President of Sambad Sahitya Ghara. And I am thankful to Prashanta Kumar Mishra of Sambad. And I am thankful to Akshay Kumar Pati, Secretary of Sambad Sahitya Ghara. I am thankful to Madam Smita Bose for nice preparation, nice. I am thankful to Mr. Susma Panda, Associate Professor of Political Science, KC College, Churchgate, Mumbai. We want to listen from in another occasion. I am thankful to Mrs. Balvinder Kaur, ex-principal of Women's College and President Governing Body of Ellen College, for her nice speech and valuable speech. We also want to listen from her in another occasion. I am thankful to all the staffs of Ellen College, Jharsuguda, Reader Tapan Barik sir, Bharat Bhavespati sir, lecturer in physics, Purnima madam, Japani Patel madam, Dr. Saroj Kumar sir, and all the students of this college, and also all the citizens and who are participating in this program. I am thankful to all the staffs, all the dignitaries. We also organize such and other occasions and want to listen from her and any other personality. So thankful to all other staffs. Namaskar. I am concluding myself.
Madam, no.
Thank you, Mandakini madam.
Hey, Swarna, my hearty appreciation to Susma madam. Very nice talk. Nice preparation, nice talk.
Thank you
I
very
enjoyed
much.
it.
And
I enjoyed it. I
I
enjoyed it.
also, on behalf of Ellen College, thank you, sir, for being with us, because
I enjoyed the talk, and you are 50% voters. So you are actually governing the whole state. So why you are asking for reservation again? You are 50% voters. You can get anything you like. Okay. So thank you very much to make me listen all these things. Thank you again.
thank you very much. And now, at the end, I would like to take the permission from Professor Narendra Kumar Panda, our principal, to close this celebration, to close this session.
Okay, madam. Now it is time to close the program. Madam, namaskar, Kaur madam. ଆପଣ ଟିକେ ଲେଟ୍ ରେ ଜଏନ୍ କଲେ ତ
But better late than never, sir.
ହଁ ନିଶ୍ଚୟ ଠିକ ଅଛି it is time to close the program. Thank you once again to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
I declare close.
Thank you. Huh? Thank you.